If one of the outside people forgot, then the inner people can be mutter because they can just they can close the door and become independent. They say to the outside, you're separate from me. We close the door. We're just going to make an air for ourselves. That's it. But the chitzona asura. So when you went through this, and one of the inside people forgot, why should both be asur? Let the guy who forgot be mevatel reshus to the people on the inside. And the outer people will be mutter with them, and they'll have one eruv together, and they can all use it. Kiman Krabli the Omar Eino Tzarech Levatel Reshus Kol Echad Ve'achad, who said you don't have to be mevatel reshus to each person, but ki kamin al Rabbanon. But the one who asers, he held Shmuel like Rabbanon. Dami Tzarech Levatel Kol Echad Ve'achad, and he can't do that because he can't go from Chaser to Chaser. Rav Chizda Rav Sheish says ki pagi badi adadi. Rav Chizda Rav Sheish, when they would meet up with each other, Rav Chizda mirton shivs semi masnisa Rav Sheish. Rav Chizda would shake in the presence of Rav Sheish because he was such a powerful Talmid Chacham. It's amazing. I had a very important Rav in my office today who was a Talmid of Rav Aaron Kotler, who's told me that when you would stand in Rav Kotler, first of all, when he was in a shiur, and also you would sit there. When you would stand, they would shake. They wouldn't say a word. To interrupt the Rav during the shiur, they would, and now that just when they were in his presence, you mamish would shake. It's very interesting. The Gemara says the same thing. Mirtin shifsim masnisad Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes mirta kule gufa mipulpulad Rav Chizda. Rav Sheshes' whole body would shake because of the strength of the pilpul of Rav Chizda. Boy, Rav Chizda Rav Sheshes. Rav Chizda asked for Rav Sheshes. Shnei batim mishnei tzidei rishus harabim. Two homes, one house on Olympic. You have duplexes that are opposite each other. And somebody, Goyim came, closed off Olympic. They built a wall to the south of one of the houses and to the north of one of the houses. Now, they converted the Rishus Harabim into a chutzner that the two houses open up into. Shnei batim mishnei tzidei Rishus Harabim. Ubo nochrim v'kifu mechitza b'Shabbos ma'u. Goyim came and they closed it off with walls. And now it's like the two houses opened up into a chutzner, but they did it on Shabbos. And these two batim didn't make an eruv before Shabbos. So the question is going to be, can these people in the house carry it into the chutzner? Aliba demando amar ein bittul reshus mechutzer lechutzer. According to, right, so I have my ownership in the chutzner, and the other guy has, you can't make bittul reshus from one to the other, lo to boilecha. There's no shayla. Hashadi boile Eruvin me'esmo. That even though they would have the potential to make the eruv from the day before Matzum Arvi, yet you tell me, Abert, ein bittul reshus mechutzer lechutzer, hachadi boile Eruvin me'esmo lo Matzum Arvi. They wouldn't have been able to make an eruv because it was Rishus Harabim at that time. So now you're going to, so certainly lo kol shekeh. So kiti boilecha, the shayla is only aliba de mandomer yesh bittul reshus mechutzer lechutzer. According to the mandomer, like Rabbi Yochanan, who says you can't be mevatel from one to another. Maybe Hasan di boiler Eruvin me'esmo Matzum Arvi, when you have two chatzeiros where you have the ability to make an eruv from erev Shabbos, so betul nabi matzim mevatel. So since you can make an eruv, you can be mevatel. Aval hacha, but in the case where the goyim in the middle of Shabbos built these walls, where the lo matzim arvi me'esmo, there would have been no potential to make an eruv from the day before. So the question is it tied to the ability to make an eruv from the day before? So do we say betuli nami lo matzim mevatel? And maybe we say, since they, in this example, they could not make an air from the day before, they can't be mevatel. Oidim loishno, maybe it makes no difference, and they can be mevatel. Omer le Rav Sheshes responded, ein mevatlin. They would not have the ability. So he would follow this concept that since they didn't have the ability to do it from Erev Shabbos, they can't do it now. Okay, what if you have a Gentile in your chotzer, who we said, and the rest of the Jews participate in the Eruv. Now, you still can't carry in that chotzer unless you rent from the Nochri. However, Meis Nochri b'Shabbos Mau, he died. They didn't make an Eruv with him, and they didn't rent it from him. And maybe, a Jew can be mevatel his reshus on Shabbos to the other Jew, and then that Jew at least could carry from his house into the chutzner. So that's the question. Now, there was a debate that if a non-Jew arrives on Shabbos, can you rent from him? So according to the Mandomer, it says you can loy teboilecha. There's hashta tarti avdinon. Because in order to be mevatel, in order to carry, sometimes you'll have to do two actions. You'll have to rent from the goy, and you'll have to be mevatel reshus. So if, according to the one, it says you're allowed to be soicher, and therefore, if you're allowed to do two actions, chadim a boy, there's certainly be. Now you don't have to be rent from the non-Jew. He's dead. All I have to do is one action of bittul reshus. The question is for the mandomer who holds that if he shows up on Shabbos, you're not allowed to rent from him. Maybe tarti hu de lo avdinan. Maybe that mandomer holds because you need two things to happen. You need schira from the goy and bittul reshus from a Jew. But maybe hachad avdinan. But the mandomer who holds normally ein soichrin. Maybe though in this case, you could have one, you could do bittul reshus. O demoloishna, or malay, ani omer mevatlin, vamnuna omer ein mevatlin. The halacha is in meis tochri b'Shabbos, mutter levatel reshus b'yom HaShabbos, k'dei later tiltul, because one action is enough. Arei Amar Shmuel. Nochri sheyesh lo pesach arba al arba, tfachim, pasuach labika. So he has two doors. One door is to the chutzner, and another door is to like a valley or a meadow behind his house. So afilu machnis umoitzi gmalim ukronis kolayom kulu derech mavui. He's doing a lot of inning and outing with his animals, etc., through the mavui. Ein oisra bnei mavui. He will not prohibit on that street that he opens up. He's not a shutif because he had his real opening is to the bika, is to the meadow. My time of bepischa demiyachadle, because a mavu everybody uses. This is his own private area, so he is more interested in his own privacy. So he will not aser on the other Jews that live in the mavu. Right? He's more happy with the door that he can only use private, like having your own private elevator. Fine. That's a bika. What about a karfeif? Right? A karfeif is an area that's 5,000 square amis. You've closed it up with walls, so like a corral. If the karfeif is bigger than 5,000 square amis, it'll protect the people from the mavui. Right? He'll say afilu pasuach b'karfeif. Even if it's opened up into the karfeif, it's considered as if that's his primary door, and his activity in the mavui is discounted. Now, we're going to qualify that din. Rabbi Rav Yosef Damar Tavayu Nochri basis Saim Oyser. If it's 5,000 square meters or less, then that is not going to be considered his primary mode of exit. We look at his participation in the Mavli, and he will prohibit on the Bnei HaMavli. Because it's not big enough for him to do all of his, transactions in such a smaller area. If it's Yoisr basis, if it's more than 5,000 square amas, then Eino Oser. Then we would attribute that door to be his main door, and he would not prohibit on the Bnei HaMavli. Now, if it's a Jew who has another opening, it's different. If it's 5,000 basis Saim Eino Oser, if it's 5,000 square amas or less, then we view that as usable for him. Because if it's more, Yosef basis I'm oyster, because that's a Carmelist. He can't carry there. So he'll certainly go to the Mavli. And that's why he'll answer on the Mavli. Because a karfet greater than 5,000 square amas, there's a gzeira that it's considered a Carmelist, which is prohibited for him to carry. What if it's open to a karfeif? That's the non-Jew. If it's less than 5,000 square meters, it prohibits because it's not big enough for his use. Okay. Omer ulam Rav Yochanan. Karfeif Yosef Beis Sayim Shlohukah Fladira. You have a corral more than 5,000 square amas, and there is no house connected to it. Afilu kurva, afilu kurayim. It's 100,000 square amas. Hazorik l'soichoi chayiv. It's enclosed by fences. So Minat Torah, it's a Rishus HaYachid. It's just, Chachamim say, because of its size, and it's not Hukaf Ladira, it's a Carmelist, and we can't carry there more than Arba Amos. But Midaraisa, it's a perfectly good Rishus HaYachid. And if you throw a ball from a Rishus HaRabim into it, you're going to be Chayiv, a Chatas. My time, Mechitzihi. Elashim Mechuser's Diurin, so Chachamim make a Gzeira that it's a Carmelist. And in a Carmelist, you can't carry more than Daled Amos. Mazir Ravuna Bar Chinina, Sela Shabayam. You have a large rock in the ocean. Gavoa Asar V'Rochav Arba. 10 Tvachim high, 4 by 4 Amos. So that meets the criteria for a Rishus HaYachid. So you can't carry ein metatlin lo min tocho layam v'lo min hayam l'tocho. Now a yam is a din Carmelus. Well, you still can't carry from a Carmelus midrabanon from a Carmelus to Rishus HaYachid or vice versa. So ein metatlin lo min tocho layam v'lo min hayam l'tocho. Pachos mikan. Now let's say the rock is not 4 by 4 by 10. Let's say it's only 3 by 3, or it's only 9. So then it's not a Rishus HaYachid. Then metaltalin. Then you can carry on that rock. Now ad kama, ad basis sayim. What's the limit of the size? 5,000 square amas. It can't be more than 5,000, but up until 5,000 amas, it can be. I guess it's not Gavoa 10, but it's 5,000 amas, but not 10 high. And then you can carry anywhere on that rock. But if it would be more, no, because that would be a din of a carmelis, and you can't carry in a carmelis more than four amas. Now the Gemara wants to know ayoy. This halach you just quoted is on what part? Ilema seifa. So base assigned tfei lo. More than why not more than 5,000 amas? V'ama carmelis lecarmelis kamataltel. You can carry from a carmelis to a carmelis. Elalava reisha, vachi kamer, selish b'yam. If you have a rock in the ocean, gavoa savarach varbo, 10 tfachim high, 4 by 4 amas. Ein metad lo mitocho layam, lo mayam letocho. You can't carry from the water to the rock, from the rock to the water. Ad kama ad base society. That's if it's up to 5,000 skoras. Hayosre base society. So then, if it's more than 5, it becomes a carmelis, and then a carmelis to a carmelis is like one place. Metal alma carmelisi to Yufted Rav Yochanan. So this is karfa. This is a kasha of Rav Yochanan who said karfa of Yosef Rebbe Shayim. You can azarek l'torch chayv z'rishus hayachid. Amar Rav Mandelo yoda truth masnisa. To Yufted Moisef le Rav Yochanan, the one who doesn't know how to answer the Baraisa is going to ask a kasha for Rav Yochanan. Lo'elam hareisha. It's not going on. It's going on the reisha. V'achi kamer. Ha b'socho metaltalin. On the rock itself, you can carry. Ad kamo ad beis asayim. But more than that, it would be a carmelis. You wouldn't be able to go dal namas. Ravashi Amar also lo'elam hareisha. Hein amru v'hein amru. Hein amru karfif yeser beis asayim shlokif ladira. If you have a corral which doesn't have a house attached, that's greater than 5,000 skoramis. Ein metaltalin bola barbamis. It's a carmelis. You can't go more than dal namas. Ve'hein amru, ein metal meshus hayachid lekarmelis. You normally can't carry from meshus hayachid to a carmelis. Base society destroy l'til tula b'kul. Now, if a corral is less than 5,000 square meters, you're allowed to carry anywhere there. As rabbanon tel tuli, so the chacham prohibited you from carrying lo min hayam l'tocho v'lo mitocho layam. Not from it into that, and not from that into the yam. My timer. Rishus hayachid gmurahi. It's a full rishus hayachid. So, and yosem rebeis v'saim also total bekulei. If it's greater than 5,000 amas, where they said you're not allowed to carry more than 1,000 amas, shor rabbanon total mitocho layam and mitocho, because it's a din of a carmelis. You can go from a carmelis to a carmelis. My time at dilma rishus hayachid gmurahi. Why should you be allowed to do that? Maybe it's rishus hayachid wasn't total bekulei. So why should it be a difference? Maishna, tocho shchiach. You know why? Because Chacham didn't make a gzeira of going from the ocean to the rock. Walking on the rock is a davar shchiach, so they made a gzeira. Mitocho le'yam min al-yam l'tocho lo shchiach, so there's no gzeira. Hahu yenuka d'ishtapi chamima. There was a child who was going to get circumcision. They needed hot water because at that time of Chazal, they felt it was a pikuach nefesh that you had to have hot water to wash them off after the milah. And the hot water spilled. Bring it from my house, because my house opens up into this chutzner. We didn't make an eruv. There was no eruv chatzeros. But that chutzner was involved in a shituf mavuos with the other chatzeros that open up into this, that these chatzeros open up into a mavu. But they didn't make a shituf either. Fine, said Rava. So let's tell a non-Jew to bring it. Rabbi Boilus Vila Marvelo Shavkin Rav Yosef. I wanted to ask a kasha on that, but Rav Yosef didn't allow me. Rav Yosef, Rav Kana, Ki Avina Bei Rav Yehuda, Hava Amerlon. B'doraisa mosvinin tiyuv devahadar avdina ma'isa. When it comes to Torah law, we first ask kashas before we do the ma'isa. B'drabanon avdina ma'isa v'hadar mosvinin tiyuv. We do the act and then we ask kashas. So he shouldn't have asked kasha. He just brought the water. What did you want? What kasha did you want? So now we're going to bring the sugya of Amir La'akum. What are you allowed to tell a non-Jew to do on Shabbos for you? And we'll learn this tomorrow. So tomorrow, is